This is why you subscribe, Bears fans. We're right back in the studio. I was walking out of the office because I'm under the weather, left a little early today. Then the Bears signed somebody, turned around, got to work, and we're bringing you guys the news. So if you want constant coverage on what this football team is doing, hit that sub button. We got a busy episode of Bears Now coming at you right now. I'm Harrison Graham. The Chicago Bears have signed wide receiver Isaiah Ford after he had a workout earlier today. If you just watched our video in the last hour or so, he was mentioned. Go back, watch that video after this one. I encourage you guys to do so. But he is signed after Jordan Schultz reported that he had a successful workout this morning. The former Virginia Tech Hokie star finds a new home in Chicago. And we mentioned this earlier, and we'll, of course, expand on Isaiah Ford here. He's actually played a little bit in the NFL. 63 career catches, 681 yards, a couple of touchdowns, an average of just under 11 in 32 career games played. So he's actually gotten to play a little bit, has had 2 stints with the Dolphins. That's where he's had actually all of his production, has bounced around a little. He was also traded to the Patriots in 2020, but then later cut and re-signed with the Dolphins. Kind of a weird deal, but he's played some, hasn't played a ton, but actually has some experience for a guy that, you know, maybe the average NFL fan has not heard of. And be honest with me, Bears fans, have you heard of Isaiah Ford before today? Type Y for yes, you have. You're a football junkie. Type N for no, you have not. No judgment here, judgment-free zone here on Bears Now. Let me know if you've heard of Isaiah Ford before today, Y for yes or N for no. And if you haven't, well, you're in luck because we are here to tell you a little bit about Isaiah Ford. He was went to Virginia Tech, played in the ACC for 3 years, 2014 to 16. We'll take a look at his college stats in a minute. Was a 2017 7th-round pick, so had some injury concerns in 2017, which is probably what hurt his draft stock. Now, he has not played in a game since 2021. He bounced around the Giants and Colts practice squads this past season. I mentioned the brief stint with New England, but never played for them in 2020, and then ended up back in Miami in 2021. But that's kind of where he's been and what his story is going back to college. Now, when I looked at his college stats a minute ago, when I saw that they worked him out and signed him, I was like, okay, I remember Isaiah Ford a little bit. He was pretty good in college. Like, you look at the numbers, it's like 3 straight years of 56-plus catches, had 709 yards and 6 touchdowns in 2014, 75 and almost 1,211 touchdowns in 2015, had a big year in 2016 as well with another 1,100-yard season and 7 touchdowns. And his profile coming into the NFL draft was a decent size and speed combination, 6'2", 200 pounds. I think he may have run a sub 4.4 if I read that correctly, but he had good speed coming out. That injury in 17 hurt his draft stock for sure, which is why he went in the 7th round. Might have been more of a middle round guy without that. But he's played some, had good profile coming out, so there's a little something to work with here. Now, is there a path to the roster? That's a different question, right? The 53-man roster. Obviously, he's on the 90-man roster. But you look at the wide receiver situation. We'll, of course, tie Chase Claypool to this in a moment because he's on the PUP list, but we know those first 4 guys, unless one of them starts on the PUP for the actual season or something like that, they're making the team. So that's 4 guys gone. Equinemius St. Brown, Velus Jones, Dante Pettis, I think at minimum are all ahead of Isaiah Ford. So at best, he enters this situation as the 8th wide receiver. So it's certainly an uphill battle, but compared to guys like Joe Reed, Simba Webster, Aaron Cruikshank, Kitchings, even Darius Fountain, who's bounced around a bit, he's actually played and produced at a somewhat decent level. Like, this kind of reminds me of when Dante Pettis signed last year, and we were like, okay, he's kind of been a bust, but he's played a little bit. Isaiah Ford gets a chance here to be like, hey, like, I've played a little bit, haven't maybe reached great expectations, but maybe he surprises us. I think Dante Pettis shocked us last year with how he performed in the preseason and in camp to make this team. Now, he wasn't having to compete with DJ Moore. Like, this wide receiver room's in a much better spot. So I do think it's an uphill climb for Isaiah Ford, but this is a guy who's actually played. I think at worst it's a good camp body for Justin Fields and for this wide receiver room. So curious to see what he does and see how he looks starting on Wednesday at training camp. Now, we do have some FGB t-shirts available. Look at the FGBs going in the comments. FGB. FGB. Chatsports.com/FGB. Got to get your t-shirt now. Camp is here. Packers week 1. Rolly and I, assuming Rolly's producing with me, we're going to be rocking FGB shirts week 1. You can too. Chatsports.com/FGB. And if you get one of these shirts and a tweet or X me a photo, whatever they're calling it these days, I can't keep up with Elon Musk. We'll put it on the show. Let us know. Rock the shirts. We'll put you on the channel. Okay, speaking of Chase Claypool, are there no concerns? Since we did the video earlier, Tom Waddle, former Bears player and ESPN radio in Chicago, said that from what he's heard from sources inside the building, that Claypool to the PUP list has been referred to him as not a big deal. So that's good, right? And I kind of thought that would be the case, but of course we freaked out because it's Claypool and things haven't gone super smooth so far. But I also said, well, he was working out with Justin Fields and the boys down in Florida just last week. Like, surely he's at least close to 100%. And I also said, maybe this is just kind of one of those transactional deals, free up a roster spot to sign somebody. Just signed Isaiah Ford. And then once they activate him, they'll cut someone else. So that could also be the case. Now, I'm not sitting here saying Claypool's going to be ready day 1 on Wednesday, but based on what Waddle's saying, it's going to be a brief stint. Maybe he misses the first week of camp or something like that, but doesn't sound like it's too severe. Now, obviously, with him, the pressure's ramped up, right? Like the outside noise is a lot louder for him than if it were someone else on the PUP, because he did have his worst year of his career last year. Wasn't playing as well in Pittsburgh as he did in his first 2 years. They tried to make him a big slot after drafting George Pickens. That didn't really work out. Didn't produce that much in Chicago after the trade, which, he comes into this year with a lot to prove, right? Like, I've gone back to the point of his first 2 years in Pittsburgh were pretty damn good, but that's meaningless for the Bears. Like, the Bears need to see him produce here, and he's in the final year of his rookie contract, and if he wants a new deal in Chicago, he has to prove a lot, and has to prove it this year, and that starts in camp. So hopefully he's out there quickly. I don't view the Isaiah Ford signing as like Claypool's out for 2 months, you got to get a receiver in here. I don't think that's the case. I just think they worked him out, and they like what they saw, and they're going to give him a chance in camp, and we'll see what Ford does. But Claypool obviously figures to play a bigger role on this football team, and hopefully he's able to do just that. Now, what is your concern level overall with Chase Claypool? Scale it of 1 to 10, 1 being no concern at all, 10 being you're panicking. I'm at like a 5 or 6. I'm mildly concerned. Not necessarily because of the PUP list deal, but just because, look, so far, like, you've lost the trade. There's no doubt. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. That trade was more so about this year than it was last year, but we would have liked it to be a little smoother so far, right? Like, we would have hoped he wouldn't miss some of the offseason program with an injury. We would have hoped he would have picked up the playbook faster a little bit last year. So 5 or 6, I'm not freaking out, but show me something. Like, I'm in the you got to show me phase now. So I believe in Claypool, but it's up to him to show us what he can do. Again, subscribe to the channel. We just put out this video a little bit ago. We explored a potential Chris Jones trade, and the Bears worked out 2 players. Find out who the other player they worked out was. I'm gonna save it for that video because I still want you guys to go watch it. We just published it when this news dropped, so go check that out. They're also rumored to be interested in another free agent. We discussed that as well. You'll get more Isaiah Ford talk in there because he worked out, but a lot of other juicy nuggets in there. Chris Jones, could he be on the trade block? Ryan Poles, obviously familiar with him during his time in the Chiefs front office, so we discussed that, and more wide receiver discussion heading into training camp with Claypool on the PUP, and just an overall look at the position. So go watch that video, hit the sub button, go to the content tab. It's going to be the most recent video before this one. It'll be right there. So go check it out. Appreciate you guys' support. We'll be back tomorrow live, 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 Central Time. Until then, bear down.